Protesters make it personal, targeting an immigration facility director at his home in his neighborhood in Aurora. Activists including the Denver Communist Group and Abolish ICE marched to the house of the man who runs the ICE detention center in Aurora.
9 News reporter Jennifer Meckles followed along as protesters faced off with counter-protesters and a few neighbors too. No injuries tonight, but you just got word of a few arrests?
Yeah, just within the last hour, guys, Aurora police tell us that 3 people were arrested this evening. I'm going to take a little step back because the sprinklers just came on around us, and I don't want that to be distracting. So bear with me. Let me back up. Travis, come with me. That's what happens when you're in a neighborhood, I suppose. Okay, so Aurora police tell us that 3 people were arrested tonight, but the most important thing is that nobody got hurt. Safety was maintained, they said. They came to this neighborhood because it's where a gentleman named Johnny Choate lives. He's the guy that works for Geo Group, and he's in charge and runs this ICE facility here. So it was a pretty sizable group. Protesters planned to stay only on public sidewalks and streets. That was what they set their goal from the beginning, and not to go on people's property or cause any damage. And from what we could tell, they stuck to that plan. Unsurprisingly, there were also counter-protesters out here tonight, following along and yelling right back. Police trailed the group. Sometimes they surrounded the group. They were on motorcycles. They were in cruisers. Some were even in tactical gear. And let me tell you, this was a spectacle for neighbors. Just about every single house had somebody in the front lawn watching. Some of them simply stood there recording with their phones, but some of them walked right along with the protesters. Some of these neighbors were empathetic, sympathetic to the cause. Others were very angry the protesters came to their neighborhood. And some were just simply stunned at what they were watching on their street on a school night. And we spoke to both protesters and neighbors tonight.
We're just trying to bring attention to the fact that our people are being put in these camps, and we're trying to do it in a peaceful way.
Very upsetting that it's at his personal property and not at his place of business. Very upset that he has a family. We all have families in this neighborhood that are very tight-knit group, and they are coming and disrupting my neighborhood.
Now, a spokesman for the GEO Group, again, that's the company that runs this detention facility, they told us in part, tonight we breathe a sigh of relief that our employee's family and his neighbors are safe and their properties remain intact. Unfortunately, the spectacle has set a new low in our politics and public discourse. Of course, there was more to that statement. We will be sure to include the rest of that on our website, 9news.com, and our online coverage of this story tonight. Kyle?
And Jennifer, we've talked about how we've been trying to avoid feeding into this frenzy, which has been building for weeks now. It's pretty clear there are people on both sides trying to whip up emotions like they're spoiling for a physical fight. Glad it didn't happen tonight. How close do you think it came?
There were certainly tense moments. I mean, there were counter-protesters and protesters yelling right back and forth with each other, following each other along. But, you know, that's what happens in a protest sometimes. You had some neighbors who wanted to engage. You had police in tactical gear. That's scary and a little weird for people who aren't accustomed to seeing that. But at the end of the day, everything just kept moving forward. People stuck to, for the most part, the rules. And tonight at 9 o'clock, everybody decided it was time to go home. And as APD said earlier, Aurora police, nobody got hurt. Safety was maintained.
All right. Jennifer Meckles reporting from Aurora. Thank you, Jennifer.